It's a big edition of Waking the Red Weekly presented by Footy Talks. No burying the lead this time ahead of the 2021 season. Today, we're going to be joined by Toronto FC President Bill Manning. My name is Mitchell Tierney, editor at WTR. We'll also have a massive week for Canadian soccer ahead on the show. We'll discuss Toronto FC's new kits as well as preparations for the CONCACAF Champions League. My co-host, as always, WTR managing editor Michael Singh, who's answering his text messages, and manager Jeffrey P. Nesker. Guys, for so many reasons this week, I mean, I'm pumped.
Guys, it only took us 35 tries, and we made it to the final boss. That's pretty fantastic.
Let's go, man. I was texting Mitch this morning when I first woke up. I was so tired. I could have slept in till like noon, 2 o'clock.
That's
midnight, just straight through. But then I remember, I'm like, today's the big day, gents. We got a pretty special guest on. I'm like, okay, up, let's go, wide awake, let's do this thing.
Wasn't a problem waking up this morning. I'll tell you that. Let's go.
Yeah, well, obviously, we'll get to Manning pretty soon and incredibly excited about that. But we have a lot of other Toronto FC news this week as well. I mean, they did their first media availability, I think, since the COVID-19 outbreaks. They're back in training and preparations have started. I mean, we finally got news on what preseason is going to look like over the next couple of weeks as they prepare for that Club Lyon match. It's exciting. We're going to have soccer to watch, and the club does seem like it has a good plan going into this game.
Yeah, I mean, they're ramping up the intensity. I mean, speaking to Chris Armas yesterday, he was adamant about the fact that now it's just about getting them physically ready for that April 7th game. Of course, Club Lyon is in the middle of their season, so TFC have to sort of ramp it up, make sure they go in there as fit as possible to keep up with what Lyon can do. He mentioned taking it in intervals, which is why they have a sort of a condensed preseason schedule, let's call it. I do not expect TFC to run out their first team in all of those games, obviously, for obvious reasons. But I am excited to see them back take the pitch eventually, and hopefully, like, we're still waiting word on this, but hopefully those games could be broadcasted here in Toronto.
That was my next question. I know it hasn't been confirmed yet, but that'd be pretty sick if we got to watch some preseason footy action. I do miss those really, really, really dodgy 320p videos for the preseason games where your visibility was like less than a foot in front of you. It was like flying a plane on a bombing mission. It was fantastic. I loved it.
Of course, yeah. TFC, they travel tomorrow down to Orlando. And then I think their first preseason game from then is March 27th. That'll be against Inter Miami's USL side. So that'll be an interesting game, see who TFC runs out for that one. But yeah, I mean, they're going to get going here tomorrow. So the sooner that they get there, that means the sooner we get to watch some TFC footy.
I remember one time they played, I want to say it was DC United in a preseason game, and it was on Periscope, and it was just so foggy there, and you could see like a quarter of the field. It was pretty hilarious. Like, it was like, even the hardcores were like, I don't know if this is really worth watching. This is a pretty tough game. But I think this is one of the, we'll talk to Bill Manning about this a little bit later, but I think this is one of the benefits of having Florida as your main home base right now is, what they can do here in preseason. There isn't obviously nearly as much travel as there would be normally down to Mexico, and they can have a game like Inter Miami in between the two legs where they're not having to travel at all to get that game in, and they're not having to worry about that. So right there is one of the early benefits, and it comes in their preseason preparations.
And if you guys have any questions about the streams, you guys want to know if it's happening, make sure that you guys take the time and reach out. Here we go.
Yeah. It's just itchy trigger.
Make sure you guys take the time, reach out to Eric G, because he has all of the answers. You guys can find him on Twitter. Just slide into his DMs. I'm sure he'll be happy to answer that for you.
Yeah, not at all.
Well, let's move on.
Leave Eric G alone.
Yeah.
That guy's had quite the preseason, that's for sure. Between all the stuff that has happened with Toronto FC, but let's move on to talking a little bit about the other updates we got from that press conference. Michael, you were there. What were some of the things that stood out to you?
Yeah, Armis actually gave us quite a bit of information, and I guess we'll start with what I was my sort of biggest takeaway, and we'll call it the Michael Singh injury report. Let's get started early here.
Yeah, it
And
has to be the Michael Singh injury report.
let's do it. And that's Ayo Akinola and his status. Obviously, since January, that was sort of up in the air after he missed the Canadian men's national team camp. We're not really sure what happened with him. And Armis gave us the indication that Ayo Akinola would be returning to training sometime mid-March, and that has happened. So Ayo Akinola is back in training. Armis said that he looks like he has a smile on his face. He's a leader for some of the young guys, but unfortunately, with the first 2.5 weeks away, Ayo Akinola will likely not be available for that fixture, according to Chris Armis. They emphasize that it's big picture for 21-year-old Ayo Akinola. There's no need to rush him out here in the first game of the season, and they'll revisit, see how he is perhaps for the second leg, and I'm assuming he'll play some sort of role in that April 17th MLS season opener. So that's sort of the one, I guess, sort of down news, but in a way it's positive because we are getting Akinola back. And another major sort of takeaway from yesterday's press conference was Chris Armis talking about Michael Bradley again. Shout out to John Molinaro, who asked a great follow-up question, because Armis sort of touched on this in the past about how Bradley's going to be taking on a different role this season for Toronto FC. And he elaborated on that. He said that to be one of the best sixes in the world, which he believes Michael Bradley is, you have to be able to sort of do it all. And that means contributing into the offensive third. That means, he said that Michael Bradley covers the most ground on TFC. He said that he could be the fittest player on TFC. So instead of having Michael Bradley solely operate as a defensive midfielder, we're now going to see him likely push up a little bit more in the field, get engaged a little bit more, win more tackles, hopefully see a bit of Bradley that we saw in the past. And I know, Mitch, in the past, you've talked about the way he played with the U.S. men's national team in that sort of higher role. Even Bradley mentioned that himself in the press conference yesterday, where he said he was excited to take on this role. And one of the lines that sort of stood out to me from Chris Armis speaking about Michael Bradley was, he said that when you see Michael Bradley do all the stuff that he does, the tackles, everything in the midfield, but then you see him in the offensive third link up with Pozuelo, Altidore, and then you see him chip a goalkeeper. You think, why can't Michael Bradley be doing this more? And that's sort of what Chris Armis's vision is here with Michael Bradley, and that's to have him again play higher up on the field and just get more involved. So I'm super excited to see what sort of role Michael Bradley plays with Toronto FC next season. I think it'll be a little bit different than what we're used to.
We've all seen the Bradley chip at the Azteca from 45. Yeah. That's maybe my second favorite goal of all time. So if we get one of those, then it's been a successful experiment.
Yeah, because he's still emphasizing the defensive part of the game. I think for Michael Bradley, that'll never leave. It's just more so, what more can we get out of Bradley? And obviously, he's had a full preseason under his belt. That was different from last season, where he obviously battled that significant, ankle injury, and that kept him out for about 4 months. So, hey, maybe we'll see a reinvigorated Michael Bradley in 2021.
Yeah, you talked about the goal at the Azteca. There was a video that was going around Twitter recently of all the goals Michael Bradley scored for the U.S. men's national team, and there was some absolute screamers in there, some incredible goals. So it kind of made me think, why can't he do this for Toronto FC? And I mean, part of that is because as Michael mentioned, that hasn't been his role over the years. He's been counted on as a guy who's breaking up attacks, not really, at least from the front, creating them, or at least not being the final piece in those attacks. So it'll be interesting. I mean, obviously, we'll see with a number of different things. There's so many questions going into the season, but that is obviously one of them. Is what Michael Bradley looks like in his new role.
Mm-hmm. And I wonder if that frees up a little bit more playing time behind Michael Bradley for the likes of a Noble Okello, a Liam Frazier, who have obviously been dying there for playing time, and you can even throw Ralph Priso into that mix in that congested midfield. So, hey, I'm intrigued by all of this. I want to see it play out first, but it sounds promising at the very least.
Well, you think it has to as well, because the likes of Jonathan Osorio are probably going to be gone with Canada this summer in some capacity, whether that be the Gold Cup or whether that be World Cup qualifying as well. So that one of those young guys is going to get an opportunity here in the midfield, and Michael Bradley being moved into a new spot, kind of, as you said, creates that as well.
I've been waiting to drop the oh no. Didn't we just find out like 20 minutes ago that he picked up a knock in training and he's not on the World Cup qualifying roster?
Yeah, Jonathan Osorio. I don't know if it was a knock or not. I'm not sure what the exact diagnosis is for Jonathan Osorio's absence at this Canadian men's national team camp for the World Cup qualifying. But as Mitch said, I do expect him to play a role later on this summer for that national team. He's too important of a player not to be involved in that. We just wish Ozo the best and hope all is well. I'm sure TFC are just sort of, I mean, they mentioned this earlier in the offseason that when releasing some of their players to Canada camp, they're going to be really cautious with it because they do have this condensed schedule coming up. And, a few of their players have picked up knocks. Perhaps Osorio does fall under that I guess, sort of
Category.
umbrella. Yeah, category, umbrella, whatever word you want to use there. But it's nothing serious. As Armis said, every Toronto FC player except Subasa Endo, Ayo Akinola, and Achara will likely be available for that April 7th CONCACAF Champions League match.
Sweet.
There you go. That's obviously good news for Toronto FC, considering that wasn't the case all that often last season and maybe even the last few seasons. So having guys healthy going in, I mean, they've had some time here to sit on the sidelines, but obviously with the COVID scare and everything else, it's good to hear things look like they're finally back in terms of health wise. Let's talk about the kits, guys, because that's probably the last big piece of Toronto FC news this week. They dropped their new 2021 home kit. Jeff, you take it away. This is your thing. You've been itching to talk about this on the show for a while. Every time we go anywhere near kits, you're all over it. So it's all you.
We'll talk about it in more detail when we do our special kit breakdown episode, which is certainly in the mail. I'll say this. One of our more active members on the community pointed out, and I'll bring up the picture again, pointed out the absence of a finished collar, that we only get about 75% of a collar in this one. And now it's all I can see when I look at the kit. So, I think it's a kit. I really like it. I really, really like it. It reminds me a lot of the goalkeeper stripe that Alex Bono wore. What was it? The 2018 season, the first TFC kit that ever had a star on it. So there's a certain recency bias, but I dig it. I gave it an A, so I obviously like it a little bit.
Hey, I think we have to give some credit though to TFC and their social media team. For the way they played out that Josie Altidore incident. That was all time. I'll give credit where credit's due there. I mean, I think Eric G tweeted out, "That's how you steer into the skid." That's exactly how you steer into the skid. Josie leaked that kid, I think, if anything, TFC have spun around in such a positive way that it added to the overall kit drop. So great job by their social media team and their PR department, because that's not easy all the time.
Yeah, no, there's been some funny kit leaks over the year. I remember one year, I think it was MLS or something. They gave everyone the headshots for all the players and all the TFC guys and a couple other clubs as well. We're just wearing their new kits, and we're like, so these are the new shirts. And then of course those are all over social media, and they didn't really get the kit announcement they would have hoped. So, in today's day and age with all the phones and all the social media, obviously it gets tougher and tougher to keep these things under wraps. They did a decent job, but I think they did a decent job, as you said, of recovering it once things did inevitably get out there.
Hey, Josie does it for the fans. Josie does it for the fans.
Yeah, I guess while we're waiting on Bill here, Jeff, you got any other kits from around the league that really stood out to you this year in terms of?
Guys, I'm not spilling the beans. We got a whole episode planned for this with a special guest. Let's talk Olympic roster. I sort of hit on it with the Oso World Cup qualifying roster. Sorry.
Yeah, it does get confusing between the two. I wonder if we should hit that afterwards, because I think this will be a larger discussion though. So let's go, Michael, back to you. Anything else from that Armis discussion?
I think a lot of the discussion was based around Club Lyon and sort of how they're going to approach that match. And my biggest, I guess, biggest takeaway from that sort of segment of what he was saying was that TFC are going to try and compete here for the CONCACAF Champions, and that's one of their main objectives. And obviously, at the beginning of the season, when it's TFC are kind of going in their cold to Club Lyon, who are in the middle of their season, it's not. It's always. I mean, how many TFC fans are expecting TFC to sort of advance past that first round? I think they have a little bit of an expectation here from the fan base, at least, that if they do get bounced in that first round, then things will be okay. But that being said, by just hearing Armis, they want to go for it. And I believe that we'll see a strong starting 11 there for that first leg. And depending on how things go, I think we'll see a strong starting 11 for that second leg. Michael Bradley is all up for it. He's excited. I mean, how these matches go down between the TFC and a Mexican side. They're always entertaining. And, TFC have done it before. Like they've most of their squad, they've been there. And I'm excited to see Michael Bradley just back into the heart of things, back into the mix of things. And who better of a leader to lead TFC into Mexico than Michael Bradley?
Yeah, I mean, I'm worried a little bit, because our shining example of CONCACAF glory was achieved based on a decision to go and prepare in Mexico for an extended period of time. And I know we're getting the heat factor down by preparing in Florida, but certainly not the altitude factor. And I got to say, part of the reason that I think Canada, the under 23 struggled so mightily last night was the altitude. I could see it having an effect on them. So I can also, it's not a far stretch to say that TFC can prepare all they want, but that altitude is the silent killer, so to speak. And that'll be a difficult thing to overcome.
That's a really great shout, Jeff. And what's wild is that Michael Bradley pointed that out in his press conference yesterday. So you can tell that these guys know all about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there's so many factors in CONCACAF. We saw that as well last night for the Olympic team. There's so many things that Toronto FC is going to have to deal with, and altitude, obviously, just one of them. But I think we have Bill Manning here, so we'll get to him whenever he's ready to come on. I'm very excited for this conversation. Just getting, some updates on the club itself. Now joined by Bill Manning himself, president of Toronto FC, as well as the Toronto Argonauts of the CFL. Bill, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, guys. Pleasure to be on the show.
Pleasure to have you. Wow.
Yeah, we're excited.
Yeah, and massive congratulations from all of us on the new contract with Toronto FC and MLSE as well. What does that opportunity to lead the team mean to you, for the next half decade and build on what you've accomplished with the club so far?
It's really important to me, as I continue to try to, have a successful run here in MLS. I was at RSL for a long time. And when I came here, Toronto FC, it wasn't looked at like it's looked at today. And, we were able to build a franchise that is, amongst the top franchises in MLS in North America. And now my goal is over the next 5 years, as we transition from kind of that championship group, can we continue to have sustained success? I remember when I actually worked in the NFL, the team president at the Eagles at the time was a guy named Joe Banner. And I remember him telling me they had gone to 4 conference championships in a row. And he's saying that the easy part's getting to the top, the hard part's staying there. And so, a goal for me now is to have sustained success while you go through transition, and how you replace players, and how you guys know I believe in continuity, how you keep a core group of players like we did at RSL, like we've done here at Toronto FC, sprinkle in new players. You're going to lose front office staff, as we've seen. There's going to be some turnover, assistant coaches like Robin Fraser will leave and so on. How do you replace them, and how do you continue to have success? For me, that's my motivation these next 5 years, is to have continued success with this franchise and continue to fill that trophy case. And I'm still chasing that CCL trophy. I've I've lost twice in the finals with 2 different teams, and for me, that's if you ask me what one trophy I want to win, that's the trophy.
Nice.
We
That's
agree.
Music
Yeah.
to our ears, Bill. Music to our ears. Here at Wake and Nerd Weekly, we love talking about the young guns, Bill. And we've read the interest that has come through with Jaquil Marshall-Rudy. We've heard Chris Armas talk about it. We've heard Ali Curtis talk about it. How real is that interest with some of your young guns? And from where you first started back in 2015, are you receiving more phone calls nowadays than you were back then?
We are. The one thing I would say is don't believe all the rumors. Especially nowadays, agents have a way of putting things out there that maybe aren't real, but it's to actually generate interest in their players. And so
Right.
we are very conservative about promoting our young players and putting too much pressure on them. That does happen. There is a slew of players in MLS that were the next Messis, and all of a sudden a few years later they're down the pecking order. So we want to manage these young careers appropriately. I think how Vancouver managed Alphonso Davies, where they had him play a year to 2 up in the academy, then they moved him to the USL where he had success, then they brought him into Vancouver. I thought that was a model way. Tyler Adams as well in New York. So one of the reasons we've opted not to bring in a lot of new players is because we actually have a lot of faith in our young players, and we think some of them are going to have breakouts. And so rather than going out like we've done in the past and getting a kind of an MLS experienced player or someone that can plug in, like even an international, we're going to be looking to Jaden and Ralph and Noble and Julian and these guys to step in, because now is the time. We have a young guy in Jordan Peruzza who's very under the radar, who's another one we're really high on. And obviously, I'm not going to applaud Jaquil too much because he's still 16 years old, but that kid's ceiling is higher than any player I've been involved with. And I've, at RSL, we built, Brooks Lennon, Vito Avale, Sebastian Saucedo, Justin Glad, Corey Baird. They all came from our academy in Arizona. So, I've seen young talent. This kid is as talented as a young player I've seen.
I'd love to hear it.
Yeah,
to hear it.
So you kind of answered my question already. So I guess I'll give you a choice here.
What question was that?
Well, my question is, some TFC fans are, for a lack of a better word, concerned that the club hasn't made any new signings this offseason. And what would your response to them be?
Yeah,
you
heard it. I mean, that's
exactly.
We actually don't believe we had to make a lot of acquisitions. It was very important to us to renew contracts. Marky Delgado, Richie Laria, we locked up, and seeing this young talent emerging. When we talked about it, it was like, why would we bring someone else in who's going to limit the minutes of a Jaden Nelson or a Ralph Priso? And so we're encouraged by what we see around the league as well. You're seeing some young kids, perform, in Philadelphia and Dallas. And that gives us, encouragement, because we believe we have as good a young talent as anyone. Jaquil, I don't know if you guys know, the last season of the USSDA, we won the U15 national championship, and Jaquil was on that team, had 2 assists, and this is a group of players coming up we're really excited about. And so that was the reason, is that we had a lot of faith in the talent already on the roster. And we think we have a good blend of veterans, because no team has ever won with all young players. You need veterans, you need stars. But then when you have some emerging talent, you do have to find them minutes. And I think this year will be a year you do see some of these kids emerge.
Love it.
Love it. Let me follow it up quickly, because we are seeing a lot of comments about a certain Rafael Santos Borre on the chat. And I just wanted to ask you for a little inside scoop. It must be insanely difficult, but just how difficult is it to recruit players during this pandemic?
It's been brutal, to tell you the truth. We are very targeted in our designated player approach. Last year, I think Pablo Piatti served his purpose. He was an excellent player for us. He plugged a gap that we needed. He fit in very well with the team. But when we looked at what we really needed, we needed a bit more goal production. And Pablo gave us so much, but he still had an opportunity to go play in Spain, and we wish him well. But we are very targeted in the type player we want, and we're not going to rush into a move. It's been difficult though, because you can't. We in the past have brought players to see our training ground. We brought them to Toronto. They get an opportunity to see what we're all about. We visit them. We go. We meet them in person. We meet sometimes with the club, and you can't do that now where we are. And that's actually been the most difficult thing, is we haven't been able to see these players live. You learn a lot about someone when you break bread with them, and you get to know them a bit. You know their family, and that's been difficult. And so it has been, we've been leery to pull the trigger in certain cases, because we just don't have enough information. And
Right.
we want to make sure, when you're going to spend millions of dollars, and in some cases tens of millions of dollars, that's a heavy decision. And we want to make sure it's right. The good thing right now is that our window is extended. We have time. We're able to see more action and more games. And then there's a secondary window not long after, whereas Nico Ladero came in the summer window, and good players have come into this league in that summer window. So we're not going to rush ourselves. We're going to make sure we make the right designated player signing. We do think it needs to be an attacking player that can really put us on the scoreboard. One of our communications guys had done an analysis, and since July 1st of 2019, we actually have the most points per game in the league. And
Sweet.
We feel really good about the roster. But what happened at the end of last season was, when you need that big goal, like we've seen in the past with Sebastian and Josie, against Nashville, we weren't able to get that goal. And that's why we need that player like a Raul Ruidiaz, a Josef Martinez, guys like that who are difference makers. We've seen Alejandro as a difference maker. I'm really excited that the big guy is going to be back. He's healthy. He's motivated, because you know what he can do. Especially when we played, Columbus and Philadelphia, having him on the field and what a difference he makes. So we're targeted, but it has been, I'm not lying, it's been extremely difficult not to be live and be able to get to know a player who you're going to bring into the team.
Right.
Yeah, just one last quick follow-up, because we hear a lot about how the transfer market is a bit soft because of the pandemic, and has that sort of been an opposing factor, like the temptation to kind of buy cheap because you may be able to get a player at a deep discount, or that doesn't even enter into your line of thinking?
We've seen a little bit of a mix. Some clubs still want big money, and in some ways, I think they're overvaluing players. The market clearly is in flux.
Right.
Teams are struggling financially, both in Europe, both in South America. Here in MLS, it's been difficult. And thank God for our ownership. We will continue to invest in a designated player. But like anything, like when we went and got Alejandro, Pablo, we don't want to waste money, and we want to make sure if we're going to spend money, it's well invested. And the thing we've talked about is, Pablo fit perfectly for our need last year, but we're really looking to have a bit more of a long-term solution here that can help build this team over the next 3 or 4 years. It's not to say we wouldn't do another short-term deal if the right player presented himself, but our intention is to lock in a designated player that can help us win another championship over the next 2, 3, 4 years.
Another byproduct of this pandemic, of course, is the fact that I believe tomorrow you guys are headed down to Orlando and are going to set up base there. What went into that decision to choose Orlando, and what are some of the advantages, perhaps, of going there?
I think the weather, for one. It's been a long winter. It's been cold. And we're very familiar with the facility we're going to be staying at, the Omni. There's soccer fields right on the complex there. We have, because we've committed so many rooms, we actually have there's a apartment style hotel area where it's private, where we're going to be staying. We have our own restaurant, but it's open. Florida is, at one point, Florida was amongst the worst states, and now it's amongst the best. And the economy is doing really well there. So it's going to be a good change of pace for us. The weather will be welcome. And we get some really good training sessions in on a good field. Exploria Stadium is an excellent stadium. And we're actually going to be playing our CCL match at Osceola Heritage Park, which is where Orlando City B played, which is it's an old baseball stadium that is renovated into a soccer stadium. It's pretty cool little venue that'll be there for us. So we're excited to go down to Florida, and we're encouraged that it won't be as long of a trip as we had to do in Hartford with how things are coming along.
Yeah, Bill, just as you're saying there, do you think it's more likely now? Could you say it's more likely now that we perhaps see Toronto FC return back to Canada, maybe sometimes this summer, than it was maybe a few months ago?
Yeah. I think what we're starting to see is that the health officials, the government officials, are trying to find solutions, and they're understanding that the sports world is a big part of the community. And, certainly health is always a top priority, but as the vaccine is getting rolled out, as we've learned so much about, who this virus really infects, I think there's an appetite to find solutions for us, for the Blue Jays, for the Argonauts, less so the Argonauts because they play within Canada. Mm-hmm. Us and the Blue Jays, the Raptors and the Leafs, all playing U.S.-based teams is really what a challenge has been in the past. But the vaccine has been tremendously successful rollout so far in the U.S. And we get tested every other day. We're on top of things, and so we're hoping that it'll be, in the summer and hopefully early summer where we can be back here playing games.
Fantastic.
That's awesome.
Bill, you're making us smile today.
Okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to ask my contractually obligated question. 2015 to now, Bill. What? I just called you Bill and it felt weird. I think I'm going to call you Mr. Manning.
No, that makes me feel way too old. Bill.
All right, Bill. I'm getting goosebumps. But what is your all-time favorite TFC kit?
So TFC, in the early years, we actually we did that kit as a little bit of a nod to the Toronto Metros Croatia. It was it was kind of red, white, and blue. It was white with blue, and a little red in the 2016-17 seasons.
The away kit? Yeah.
And, we had, when I got here, one of the first guys I met was a guy named Bob Arugi, who was, one of the top all-time Canadian players of all time. And he had played for that Toronto Metros Croatia team, reminded us that they actually won the NASL trophy in 1976. And so there's, 6 or 7 of those guys still living here in Toronto and a big part of the community. And so we had an opportunity to kind of give them a little bit of a nod. And that jersey and that outfit is actually very similar to, that kit is very similar to what they wore in the 76 season. So that was a fun uniform design. From a home standpoint,
mm-hmm.
I really am excited about this year's kit. I think we, our design team, had some fun with it, I think, and sometimes it's a little dangerous when you go outside the box. And I think we we creatively went outside the box this year. So I'm pretty excited about the new jersey.
Sweet. That's hilarious. Both you and Justin Moore, the only two people that I've asked, have both put that kit first. And we knew nothing about it. We saw the blue and immediately we were like, oh, Montreal Impact colors. What the hell? Now I'm scared to ask this one. What was your least favorite kit?
Oh, man.
Putting you on the spot here, Bill.
Yeah. So it's crazy. You know, a lot of people probably didn't love the all red, but I like that. I think it's kind of a we are the Reds, right?
Mm-hmm.
I actually didn't love the jersey. I think it was 16 or 17 when we won the championship, but that jersey forever will live in my heart, right?
For sure.
The image of Victor Vasquez lifting up his jersey.
Yeah,
you know,
incredible.
That jersey will always live in my heart. So I don't get too caught up in the jerseys. You know, we have a design team that you'd be amazed. They get into like every little detail and
doesn't surprise me. I think I know that.
You pass the eye test and as long as our guys are fine wearing it, and for the most part they'll take, as long as it feels good and it's light. So I'm not a hater really of any of the jerseys. The 17
very
jersey,
diplomatic.
Yeah, that one grew on me when we won.
That's a great PR answer, Bill.
Yeah. Damn.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Bill. We really appreciate your time today.
Sure. No, thanks. That was
my
easy.
Goodness.
It wasn't too bad, eh, Bill? We took it a little bit easy on you today. Perhaps next time we'll go a little bit harder.
Yes. Thank you so much for.
Don't believe all the rumors, you know, and I do believe, you know, when we do make this acquisition and when we do get started, seeing some of these young players emerge, people will get a bit more comfortable with the strategy here.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it, Bill, and
right.
Safe travels to you and maybe even the family if you guys go down to Florida, and best of luck with everything moving forward.
Yeah.
Great.
Best of luck towards a great season.
All right, guys. Take care.
Cheers.
Thanks, Bill.
Awesome. Well, that was great. A lot of updates there from Bill Manning. I think we even broke some news there about where Toronto FC is going to be playing their CONCACAF Champions League game. So
nice.
Did you guys hear tens of millions? I'm sorry. Did you guys hear that line?
Yeah.
Bill, talk to us. I love it.
You know, we'd be remiss to not mention just how many comments we got about a question that I don't think we were prepared to ask him, which is for safe standing at BMO.
What I will say, Jeff, is that's a story I will look into for all of the TFC fans there that were asking.
Yeah, I just think it's a little, you know, let's get back into the stadium before we start thinking about renovating it, right? You know, and there was a point where I kept you know, I lost my focus a little bit because I was like, how am I going to slam this safe standing in? Everybody's asking about safe standing. I don't want to disappoint our fans, but I could not find a way into that without just being a complete non sequitur. So I will take this opportunity to apologize to everyone that wanted us to ask that question, because we sure like to, but you know, keep your eyes and ears peeled. Mike Singh is on the case. You will have an article that will answer all of those questions for you. So
I will get that answer, and I'm excited to see what other renovation they sort of do to BMO Field as they prepare for that 2026 World Cup.
Well, I wrote an article because I interviewed groundskeeper Rob Heggie.
Nice.
What like the first year I worked at WTR, and he outlined that all of that rigmarole around the pitch has to go, right? And you would also have to extend the pitch by a certain amount of space on both sides. I just think you would have to push back every. Yeah, no, the tunnel club's gone, man. FIFA said so. FIFA hates tunnel club. But no, it was generally just an expansion of the field, and you have to have more room for the FIFA officials and all of their friends. So it was about extending that sort of the touch line, the area beyond the touch line. And I mean, you know, when the Argos play, one of the end zones is concrete, right? Like that whole north end becomes an end zone, and then it's just sort of pasted over with AstroTurf. You can't do that with FIFA, so they would have to invest in more sisgrass and basically outline that,
Anyway.
all those extra areas. Yeah.
Anyway,
You asked.
enough pitch talk, because like we're not even there yet. So we'll get there. And I want to just talk about like what Bill was saying, and I thought he was very open and honest with us, so I definitely appreciate all of that. And one of the things that also stood out to me was him talking about the TFC Young Guns, and he is receiving more calls. Some of those rumors may be a little bit inflated, but that being said, it's an exciting time for Toronto FC fans who are been dying to see a lot of their local talent come through the ranks, and now we're going to see them get an opportunity. I mean, some of us were dying for Greg Vanny to give them that opportunity last year, but now we're going to see that come to fruition, hopefully, by the way that Bill's talking, by the way that Chris is talking, by the way Ali's sort of built this roster. So, yes, we would like to see some sort of MLS addition sometimes, but at the same time, a lot of that growth can come internally. And you think about Jaden Nelson getting another year older, you think about Ralph Priso getting another year older, even Liam Fraser there in the midfield. And we haven't even mentioned Ayo Akinola and him getting another year older, the guy who scored the most goals per 90 minutes in Major League Soccer last season. So think about that, and then you think about the likelihood of Michael Bradley bouncing back, of Josie Altidore bouncing back, of Pozuelo getting acclimated again here in Toronto with his teammates. And hey, it's exciting because TFC in the past couple of years, they've been contenders, and like as Bill said, that continuity is going to keep on going. So look out for some of these young guns next year, and hey, maybe it'll even be Jaquil Marshall-Rudy.
Yeah, it was nice to see. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, no, I was going to say, as he also said, it's all about that balance. And we've seen Toronto FC the past few years kind of go balance more towards the veteran guys, considering, they were winning, obviously. They had they were bringing in the trophies, so that made sense. But now I think, as he said, they're going to start balancing it more, bringing in more young guys, giving those opportunities. So that's very exciting. Jeff, yeah, go ahead.
Is playing the young guns like in the same school of fantasy, preseason fantasy, as this year we're going to play attacking soccer, and then it's just parking the bus for the rest of the season, right? Like, is that just like a list of the standard platitudes? Like, for sure we're going to play the young guns. For sure we're going to be on the front foot, and then it's Mourinho just parking the bus until. Well,
yeah, I was going to say we have Chris Armas as the head coach, not Jose Mourinho.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we have to worry too much about that.
Yeah, and
that's a very good point.
Every sort of young gun that I've sort of spoken to so far has said that exact same thing. Is Chris Armas has had a history of developing young talent. Obviously, Bill mentioned Tyler Adams there with New York Red Bulls. Chris won't take credit for that. He said Tyler Adams is sort of that player just because he's Tyler Adams, and Chris just sort of helped him along the way. But hey, he has that track record, so we'll see if this translates now into Toronto, and if so, they're in a unique position. They're in a unique position because not only can they develop these young guns, but they could also contend for a title. And the ability to do both, that's how you're a successful franchise for years to come. Because as Bill said, you're going to have people that depart, whether that's staff, whether that's players. That's just that's natural. But if you can fill those guys seamlessly, that's where you become a real dynasty. And by all sounds of things, TFC is on that track. They're using their resources to ensure that they're on that track. And again, let's see this put into plan now.
TFC is going to get compared to Ajax, and everyone in Toronto is going to call them Ajax, and we're going to have to just correct people over and over again.
Yeah, Michael and I were making the joke this week about casual TFC fans think they're playing Lyon from France instead of Club Lyon from Mexico, so that fits in perfectly. With that conversation. Let's finish up here though by talking about the men's national team. We touched on it a little earlier. I made Jeff stop touching on it because I wanted to. I was ready to go. I know. I wanted to make sure we got to Bill in good time, but I think this is a bit of a bigger discussion, especially since I promised friend of the show, Kristen Knowles, I would shout out their event tonight that they're doing with the Voyageurs.
8 p.m. Is it 8?
Yeah,
no, now I've... Okay.
Yeah, no, that is correct. 8 p.m., Jeff. Yeah, you did a good job of your part of this ad read. But no. They're chatting with Janine, Becky, and Sam Piet as well, which would be exciting. And
Mitch will be there.
Yeah,
Mitch will be there front stage.
I'll have my jersey tucked in and everything ready to go. They're chatting about the reorganization of the Voyageurs. So, you like us or interested in the growing supporting culture here in Canada, you're not going to want to miss that event. So head over to the Voyageurs socials. They'll have all the details there for getting involved with that. But yeah, let's talk about the men's national team, because they revealed their roster earlier today. Like Michael promised that article, I will have an article up on the site further breaking this roster down. But yeah, I did promise in writing. I think the main thing, obviously, Alfonso is going to be there. That's exciting. Laren's going to be there. Atiba is going to be there, coming with Laren. This is about as exciting a Canadian team, I think, as we could have expected considering the pandemic. And I think just shows, that they're very serious from top to bottom about qualifying for this World Cup.
I have a great John Herdman quote here. Let me just pull it up quickly.
Oh, heck yeah.
I loaded this in, so we might as well use the picture for 5 seconds. Yeah,
nice.
Exactly. Yeah.
So this was back in February, and this was John Herdman talking about the World Cup qualifying and the team that they're going to send. So I'll quote it. We want to ensure that our best players wear the red shirt and represent Canada, because those players want to change the sport in our country by qualifying for the FIFA World Cup. There's a group of players that have been part of this battle for the past 2 years. They've been developing together on and off the pitch, and they will be narrators of what could be an amazing story for soccer in this country.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. That's some flowery prose, Herdman. Wow.
There you go.
I'm invested. I like the sample chapter. I'll buy the whole book.
So I think that's sort of just a testament to where Canada soccer is heading. And I think John Herdman sees it. I think we all see it. And I think the players see it as well. As this is a real special opportunity to really make their case for qualifying for the World Cup, because the players are now getting there. They're now getting to the right ages where they can make a difference now on the world stage. And it's exciting times, because like we're seeing in men's Olympic qualifying, Canada can hang with all of these CONCACAF teams. Now can they break through? And we'll see.
Did you watch the game last night, Mike?
I don't know. To be fair, that was a pretty even game. I think the other takeaway for this show, of course, is that there's only 2 Toronto FC players that are going to be there, Richie Larea and Jaden Nelson, which I think we're all very excited about, considering we're all pretty high on his ability and what he can do. Obviously we talked about Oso not going a little bit there, Liam Fraser not going to be there. I think at large, this group reads to me like a group of players who are in form and playing games, right? That's why you have a guy like David Wotherspoon there, who's been playing week in, week out in SPL, winning trophies as well. Shout out to him for what he's doing with St. Johnston. But, I think it just makes sense, right? Especially right now when you have a pandemic and you have these guys who've been, sitting around for the last, 14 days or so. I guess not quite 14, but sitting around for a couple of weeks, not being able to train because of the pandemic. It just makes more sense to bring in guys who've been playing week in, week out, and who are in form. So I think that kind of
Atiba Laren combination. Here we go. Here we go.
There's just so much to get excited about with this Canadian side.
Do we know what's the deal with Scott Arfield and that noise?
The noise was my garage door.
I believe the Rangers said a couple of weeks ago that they were going to keep Arfield, I think just because it's an important time in their schedule. So I think that's probably the reason Arfield isn't there. I'm not certain on that, but I think that's what I read. I want to get back and...
Yeah, so it's not that he'll never put on a Canada shirt again, which was a rumor that was going around for a little while. Nobody's heard.
Don't believe that's the case.
Okay.
But I'm not too sure. I think Mitch would probably be better to answer that one. Any answer, Mitch?
Yeah, I don't think that's the case. I think right now, obviously, like he was focused on winning the title with Rangers. He was able to do that. He's just coming back from injury as well, which is another standpoint. So I'd fully expect to see him in the summer. I'm not too concerned about his future availability. And as much as Scott Arfield is a great player, we're at a place here where with Eustachio, if you have Atiba back in the picture, this is, I said it on Twitter, this is the deepest Canada's midfield's been since Prime de Guzman and D-Row and young Atiba were running around and staying on side. So I think obviously we've got a lot to be, excited about, and the absences, while, between David, Arfield, they are big. They're not nearly as big as they would have been in past years.
That's the thing, right? Is how much more depth does this team have nowadays? And this isn't like we can take Tajon Buchanan too and put him on this roster seamlessly too, right? There are other players that are not here that can easily crack this squad and make a difference. So, hey, if Canada somehow find a way to push past this first group, I'm excited to see what that second group of that roster looks like, because I think it'll be even stronger, because more players will be even more intrigued and kind of desperate to get out there. So we'll see what happens there. I want to give a shout out again to Jaden Nelson for cracking that roster as an 18-year-old. He and Theo Corbenet, who plays obviously for Wolverhampton in Europe, they're the only 18-year-olds on that roster. So I think that shows just how highly people rate Jaden Nelson, and how highly this Canadian team thinks of Jaden Nelson. The 2019 Canadian Youth Player of the Year, the 2020 Canadian Youth Player of the Year was Tajon Buchanan. So, I mean, we see what he's doing, and I'm excited to see what Jaden Nelson will do now on this stage.
I've listened to Mitch talk about Eustachio for so long that I can't wait. I can't wait to see some Eustachio, because his dubstep highlight reels are pretty terrific. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of that action. Garage door.
I don't know what's going on down there. Maybe we should wrap things up so I can go check that out. Canada, the mission to qualify for 2022. That does start this week. Just running through my notes right now. Thursday against Bermuda. They'll also play Sunday against the Cayman Island. Both those matches expected to take place in Florida. More games for the Olympic qualifiers as well. Thursday, they wrap things up against Honduras. And then, of course, on Sunday, that's the big game. Hopefully Canada can get to it, where they'll play for their Olympic lives, essentially. So we'll see. By this time next week, we will have a whole lot more to talk about Canadian soccer-wise. We'll know whether they're at the Olympics or not. We'll have a pretty solid indication of what the men's national team's looking like. So, it's obviously, as always, a lot to look forward to on the show.
Yeah, 2 games Thursday with the Olympic qualifying and the World Cup qualifying. And then I think you have that last Olympic or World Cup qualifying match on the 29th, which is 4 days after.
And all the TFC preseason streams that we're going to have to terrorize Eric about.
All those TFC preseason streams that we're going to have to terrorize Eric about. A couple more things, I think, before we close off.
Sure.
I want to get Ali Curtis's multi-year extension in here. Of course, news broke, I guess, last week that Ali Curtis re-upped with TFC for a multi-year extension. Safe to say that it was a polarizing announcement for,
I don't know why,
from the Toronto FC fan base. But yeah, Jeff, what was your take on that?
I mean, once again, it's my frustration with this whole bird in the hand is useless and what's that in the bush kind of situation, and this lofty impression of how many GMs are available and they would be better. I mean, I think it's a bit of rose-colored glasses historical perspective, right? People have now put Bez on a pedestal, and we remember only the good things and we forget the Agar Akeches and the Gregory Vanderbilt. So I take all of that criticism with a grain of salt. I am firmly on Team Bill with respect to continuity in an organization is a good thing. He's got the keys to the car a bit longer, right? Like, it's only been a couple months since we firmly established that this is now the Ali Curtis, Bill Manning era in TFC. So to cut the head off the snake at this early into the process would be pretty insane. Sorry, go ahead.
What has he done that was so terrible? He's not he's not hitting it out of the park with some of the signings that he's made, but at the same time, it does take a lot for a general manager to believe in their squad and to not make changes sometimes. And perhaps that's the true value in Ali Curtis, is that he believes in some of the young guns that are coming through. Like his vision seems to align now with Bill Manning's, and they seem to be on the same page. And you bring Chris Armas into that mix, someone who's known for playing their young guns. And I think now we're going to start seeing what, as you said, Jeff, we're going to start seeing what Ali Curtis's team is. Another point to make is, do you want a general manager entering the final year of their contract managing the long-term success of your team?
No.
Like,
Nope.
That's a tough ask.
Yeah, I don't know where you're at on F1 Race to Succeed yet, Mitch, but the Sebastian Vettel episode is it's a pretty good segue. Yeah, I mean, listen, if we had signed Boré or Messi the day before they announced Ali's re-up, I don't think there would have been any complaints. I think it's just a measure of projection from fans that are upset that they don't have a shiny new toy, with announcements that it's just more of the same at TFC, right? So. And
that's the thing. We as fans, we can judge Ali Curtis based off the work that we see from a distance, from afar. We can see it in the rosters and the signings that he makes, the signings he doesn't make. But the gold that perhaps is Ali Curtis is everything behind the scenes. And just from talking to a few of the people, just from talking to Ali himself, is that he's a leader not only in TFC, not only do TFC players, staff, everyone look up to Ali Curtis. He's a leader throughout Major League Soccer. He's on him and Justin Morrow are on the diversity committee throughout MLS. Ali Curtis is, to tell him, he's been pushing for change within MLS. He's in conversations with the MLS front office. He's in all of those conversations. And again, like we can't really judge him fairly based on X, Y, and Z because we don't know the rest of the alphabet. That's
I find it funny when people are like, yeah, but Ali doesn't have the mastery of the intricacies of MLS, rules like Bez did, when Ali probably wrote those rules when he worked at the league office. You know what I mean?
And not only that, we can't judge him based on that because we don't even know the rules. We can't see TFC's books. How can you judge Ali Curtis based on the salary cap if you can't even see TFC's salary cap?
True enough. Yeah.
It's I get it.
It's fun to speculate. It's fun to speculate.
Yeah. What I will say is optically, right? Like the only thing here is optically it does look a little funny when, all season or all off season Toronto FC fans have been expecting this big signing, and then the big signing is the guy who's supposed to be making that big signing getting re-signed for a bunch of years. So like that I can understand, like optically. I also think Curtis has unfairly been attributed to Giovinco's exit. Like that was his first. That was kind of the start of Ali Curtis era, right? Was Giovinco was on his way out, and like everything.
That was such a fun. That was such a fun couple of weeks in TFC.
That was not very helpful for even if he literally probably had almost nothing to do with that. That's not the most helpful start for someone to see a club legend leave like that. But I think given what he's done ever since.
10 out of 10.
First off, with how he replaced Giovinco with another league MVP, I mean, you almost can't do better than that in terms of the replacement. So
you can't do
fair enough. Yeah,
no, you can't.
Well, you could have had an MLS Cup MVP, but
just
saying that's the one thing you could have done. But yeah, no, I think
CONCACAF Golden Boot, my friend. CONCACAF
there you go.
There's no Alejandro Pozuelo if Giovinco doesn't depart, so fans still holding on to that. I mean, at this point, get over it.
Okay, let's. I mean, this is a perfect segue. Have we all seen the Victor Vasquez "Welcome to LA Galaxy" video?
That's social media. That's PR. That's the Galaxy holding a gun to his head, telling him to do it.
Best team in MLS, huh? Huh, Victor?
Yeah, I think
team in MLS.
I think if you ask Victor off the record, I don't know if he'll tell you that same answer. If you're holding the social media team's holding a camera to his face, I think he's kind of forced there to say that.
Yeah. I mean, it was very similar to his outgoing TFC video in that he had one facial expression and never blinked. So maybe he was under duress. We don't know, but
I remember Angel Di Maria when he signed for Manchester United, and it came out I think a year later after he departed. He said that the social media team made him say that this so-and-so Manchester United is the greatest club in the world. I can't wait. Like whatever he said. Apparently it was from the PR team that made him say that. So, I mean, I wouldn't read too far into that. Victor Vasquez obviously representing LA Galaxy. What's he going to say? I can't wait to represent the second greatest team in the league.
Yes, he's supposed to say that exactly. I'm going to watch the video again. Make sure that he doesn't have his fingers crossed behind his back while he's delivering the best team in MLS line. That was pretty infuriating. But
well, they made Alexis Sanchez play the piano, so that it could have been worse. It could have been worse from the social teams there. But let's wrap the show up now. I suppose.
Wait, one more. I know we're going really long, but
but who cares?
Only,
I mean,
only because Bill Manning pointed this out, and he said that Jordan Peruzza was flying under the radar. And funny enough, is right before the show, is I added Jordan Peruzza to our show notes because I actually asked Chris Armas randomly about Jordan Peruzza yesterday. And Armas said that when he first started, Jordan Peruzza picked up a little bit of a quad injury. So now he's really starting to get going. And he said he looks like he has something to prove. And he said that Jordan Peruzza is that classic number 9. He doesn't need a lot to finish within the box. And that sort of lines up with what Ayo Akinola said about Jordan last year. And that was Jordan's tenacious. Tenacity is the word that Ayo Akinola quickly used to describe Jordan Peruzza. So when you think about Chris Armas' style of play, and then you add in that tenacity and TFC needing goals, maybe Jordan Peruzza could be an answer to some of those problems early on. And that's what Chris Armas even said, is that we'll see how they can use him and given the best opportunity, I guess, to sort of succeed. I think we're not going to see him obviously start or anything, but I do believe that Jordan Peruzza could play a role for this Toronto FC team sooner rather than later. I'm excited to see where that goes. And Jordan Peruzza as a number 9, as a 19-year-old, I mean, we saw what he did in the past. He used to just bang in goals. We saw what he did at the USL last season, where he scored 2 screamers that were absolute top shelf. So, hey, maybe Jordan Peruzza is that answer.
Single tear from my boy Patrick Mullins. He seems to be dropping down the depth chart like a Led Zeppelin. But
Mullins is still mentioned there by Armas. I think Mullins is still ahead of Peruzza. But that being said, TFC's only signing this offseason was Jordan Peruzza. So he is the only new face on this roster. So perhaps TFC fans will, their heads will be turned a little bit when they see Peruzza enter the field.
Guys, Alan Gorman, celebrity gentleman fan Alan Gorman had nice things to say. He's been tossing zingers in the comments. I got to put at least one up, and it's at Mitch's expense. So this episode is super tight, just like Mitchell's polo. For our listeners not watching, imagine body paint, and you're sort of close there.
Yeah, whenever there's a chance, baby. We can take a jab at Mitch.
John Herman, the school of John Herman's medium fashion. There we go.
All right. Well, let's wrap up here by talking about Canada's game against Honduras. No, I'm just kidding, Sophia. Yeah, that was a great episode, though. Really awesome to get Bill Manning's thoughts on the club, where it's going in the short term and long term. Obviously, so thankful for him being that gracious with his time. Thanks to Kevin and Sophia for bearing with us and all their support and work in the background. If you're new to the show, please head over to Apple Podcasts or whatever you get your podcast. Give us a rating and review. It really all helps out and adds up. On behalf of Jeffrey P. Nesker and Michael Singh, enjoy this massive week for Canadian soccer. And until next Tuesday.
Let's go.